Let's start with some background. A couple weeks ago, an activist group said they got a copy of a police report that named Commissioner Jo Ann Hardesty as a suspect in a hit and run. Hardesty strongly denied the accusation, calling it a smear campaign. Turns out the hit and run caller incorrectly named Hardesty, and Portland police later cleared her. Hardesty, a longtime critic of the police, and Mayor Wheeler, the Portland police commissioner, want an independent investigation into how people outside the PPB found out about the report. Portland police tell me there's an internal investigation happening right now. That brings us to Tuesday, when Portland Police Association President Brian Hunsaker resigned over what the union is calling a serious, isolated mistake related to the Bureau's investigation into the alleged hit and run. The union's executive board didn't explain how Hunsaker was involved, only saying in a statement, quote, "When we make mistakes, we must hold ourselves to account. This is what the public expects of us. This is what we expect of ourselves." Brian's mistake was not driven by malice, but it was a serious mistake. The union asked former President Darrell Turner to slide back in as executive director. On Wednesday, Hardesty told us he called her office asking to talk, but she says she doesn't know anything more than we do.
The police bureau shared no information directly with me about this incident at all.
Hardesty hopes third-party investigators get to the bottom of what happened and look into potential political and racial bias and the Bureau's potential ties to white supremacists.
I hope that the due diligence, the investigation actually uncovers what the mistake was, and that we, the public, and myself included, get to know specifically what he did and why he did it, and then be held accountable for his behavior.
Mayor Wheeler called for answers immediately, saying, quote, "While I appreciate Mr. Hunsaker's self-described act of accountability, I demand he give a full and transparent accounting of what he did and what his motivations were to Commissioner Hardesty and the public." This comes at a pivotal time when the city and police association are renegotiating the union contract, hammering out hot-button issues like public transparency, especially in cases when officers are disciplined. Hunsaker, a 20-year PPB veteran, took the union job in November. In January, he said this about those upcoming negotiations.
How we want to build trust. Every one of those people, including police, that have bad officers, bad nurses, bad teachers, they should be disciplined, they should be held accountable for their actions, and they should be terminated if feasible.
I asked the city attorney's office about how Hunsaker's resignation could impact those contract talks. They told me they couldn't comment. In Southeast Portland, Morgan Romero, KGW News.